Up on the Bars Nation, welcome back to another episode of the Dropping Bars podcast. I am your host, Kimron Corion, and I'm doing something different on this podcast today. As a matter of fact, I'm doing something different for the remainder of season 2 of the podcast, and that is going forward, I will have a co-host on with me, and who better to co-host the Dropping Bars podcast than Miss Lorna Dale Charles. Dale, welcome. I mean, first of all, you've been on the podcast before on more than one occasion, but now you did so well, and the people reacted to you so well and responded so well that I had to invite you to come on and co-host the podcast with me for the remainder of season 2. So, hey, welcome back.
Hi, Kimron, and hello to your listeners. Thanks for having me. I am absolutely pumped to be on your Dropping Bars podcast and hosting with you. I think season 2 is going to be great. It's going to be an epic journey where we can dive into some serious conversations. You and I are always at a debate, talking about different topics and playing out different scenarios in our conversation. So I am excited to share those conversations with your audience. So thanks for having me, Kimron.
With the Bars Nation. Yeah. Gotta get the terminology right if you're gonna focus. We're talking about the Bars Nation, alright? Alright. So I mean today something I wanted to bring up. And by the way, we don't have any special topic, right? We're just going in. I just wanted to speak about a particular thing. Two things I wanted to speak about. I don't know if Bill would want to speak about them, but that's gonna be the beauty of the podcast, because I'm gonna force her to speak about things that she don't want to speak about, and she's gonna do the same thing with me, and we're gonna have debates, and we're gonna go at each other. But at the end of the day, what we aim is to provide value, provide some kind of value to the Bars Nation. And Bill, no, have you watched any of the Bad Boys movie, like Bad Boys 1, 2, 3, and well, the new one, 4? Have you watched any of them?
I have watched all, actually, including the new one.
Okay, so I haven't watched the new one as yet, so don't spoil it.
No spoiler alerts.
No spoilers. But I bring it up, and because I noticed something very interesting. Now, Will Smith is one of the biggest movie stars in the world. I mean, despite the fiasco with him and Chris Rock and the whole slap situation and whatever the case is, he is one of the biggest movie stars in the world. And Martin Lawrence is also one of the biggest movie stars in the world. And when they did the last Bad Boy, something that was very interesting to me is I saw Will Smith and Martin Lawrence traveling around the world. They were in Mexico City, they were all over, promoting the Bad Boys movie, the last installment. And I thought to myself, that's so interesting, because here we have a franchise that is well known, that is well loved. Here we have two of the biggest movie stars in the world that are well known. Yet for all, they are spending millions traveling around the world promoting this movie. And it just took me back to businesses, especially small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, that sometimes feel like, okay, well, people know me, people know where we are. Like I was speaking to a businessman in a retail establishment, and I went to him, and and that was all in the game when I just started in like marketing and social media and so. And I tried to pitch my services to him, and his response to me was, "Well, people know me and people know the business, so I don't need to promote. I don't need to do any marketing." And back then, hearing that, I'm like, "But that doesn't make any sense." But you know what? I never tried to sell the unsellable. So if I realize that I'm getting drawback and pushback from somebody on something, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to move on to the next. I'm going to look for somebody who actually wants what I have. But when I saw Will and Martin all around the world promoting this movie. They're very well known. The franchise is very well known. I started thinking about small businesses or medium-sized businesses and business owners that somehow feel like, oh, I've been here for the last 7 years, so everybody know me, everybody know the business, so I do not need to do any kind of marketing, any kind of promotion. And I'm like, that couldn't be further from the truth. Because at the end of the day, if you don't keep reminding people who you are, where you are, what you're about, eventually at some point, you could be forgotten. As a matter of fact, that business that told me that a couple years ago when I tried pitching my service to them, they no longer exist. They're no longer in that place. So that it's done and dusted. So what are your thoughts on two of the biggest movie stars in the world today actively promoting, spending millions to promote a movie from a franchise that's very well known versus businesses, whether it's small to medium-sized businesses, not wanting to do what it takes to promote their business? Because you know what I say sometimes as well? I don't want to be seen as showing off or brag or do shows. I don't care. Come here, show up. I will promote my shit. I will talk about it. If Will and Martin could do it, and they're internationally known, then who am I? What do you think about that? What do you think on that?
Well, Kimron, it's about, I mean, you talk about it on your Facebook all the time. It's about branding and it's understanding the relevance. You're in a competitive market. There are lots of movies out there, but they understand what branding is and building their brand and maintaining their brand. Now, it's unfortunate, you mentioned the Will Smith fiasco, but he knows that he needs to come back on the market. He knows that he needs to be relevant, even if he still has some power, some clothes, if we put it in local language. He understands the space that he's working with. It's a competitive market, so he has to, and they have to promote the movie. Plus, they spend millions of dollars just making the movie. The amazing thing about it, since they understand the space that they're working in, I think the movie made back the money probably in the first week or in the first few days.
First week, yeah.
And having said that, they understand that they need to keep the momentum, because also about, okay, so you make back the money, but it's also making profit. It's about your bottom line. It's about being relevant and understanding your audience. They understand who their audiences are. Hence the reason that they're going from city to city. And it's been a really wild ride for them. It's crazy. It's like a riot out there when you go to the the cinemas just to line up. I mean, I love Will. I love Martin from the movies they have produced in the past. So it didn't take much of me. It's like, okay, it's coming out. I'm gonna go. It was a long line, but hey, we watched it. It's a really, really good movie, and I think the movie's gonna be on like probably the number one for a minute. So I mean, let's put it simple. They understand marketing and they understand what branding is. Just putting it simple. You got to spend, and when you spend, you may or may not read the rewards, but you have to know who your audience are and just go big or you go home.
I'll go home, exactly. No, I think I'm gonna watch it this weekend. I think I'm gonna go to the movies this weekend. I'll watch it because, I mean, the reviews are crazy,
Sure.
and I try to not read too much online about it in terms of what people are saying because I don't want any spoilers. I've already started seeing little spoilers here and there, but I'm gonna stay away. I think I'm gonna watch it maybe this weekend. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I guess I brought that up because I want people to understand the importance of marketing and promotion, marketing the business, promoting the business, building your brand. Because don't think for a minute that you've arrived. Don't think for a minute that, okay, I did something, it worked, everybody knows me, Everybody knows the business, so I'm good, and everything is okay because there's always somebody coming up. There's always somebody more, somebody newer, somebody more nimble, somebody willing to invest, somebody willing to do what you're not willing to do, somebody willing to outwork you in the market that you're in. And if you're not willing to put in the work, then unfortunately you could be taken over, and you might be taken over. So when it comes to marketing and promotion, don't shy away from it.
Yeah, I think that Will and Martin were very smart and also being strategic in going out there and promote the franchise, the movie, Bad Boys, because they understand the space and the scope that they're working in. Because if you remember it clearly, even just after we came out of COVID, most of the movie stars and so were protesting because AI, they felt that AI was going to take over their jobs or stuff like that. So they understand the space that they're working in, and their jobs are very vulnerable. So by going out there and promoting the movie, I think they're making themselves relevant and understanding what the real world or the physical bodies can't do that probably AI can't. I mean, AI could help in some ways, but it shouldn't replace cinema. It shouldn't replace the movies, in essence. I think that's also a point that they're making, maybe indirectly. So I think it was very strategic of them.
You're right on that, because you could use AI Will Smith, for example, in a movie, but the AI Will Smith can't go out and interact with the people and ride an elevator and wave and jump up and so with the people in China, in Mexico, in wherever the case is. So that was that. So that was smart. But the big lesson for me is this: it doesn't matter how big you think you are. It doesn't matter how popular you think you are. It doesn't matter how well known you think you are. You gotta keep marketing. You gotta keep promoting your business. You gotta keep putting in the work. You gotta keep putting your name out there, getting your name out there, promoting yourself, promoting your business. And I know I need to do a better job at even promoting some of the stuff that I'm doing as well. I know I have, for example, I have a community that was recently launched called Digital Pulse Pro, and I need to do a better job at even putting the word out about it some more. But ultimately, the big lesson is, it doesn't matter how big you think you are, how small you think you are, whatever it is, you gotta keep promoting, you gotta keep putting in the work, and you gotta keep getting your name out there. Now, I wanna bring up something, and I'm gonna try to catch you off guard on this one. We've spoken about it offline at length, but I feel like we're on the podcast now, so I want to talk about it. So you are an author now.
Did I do?
You are an
yeah.
author now, and you have a chapter in a book, and I want to ask you about that. Now, I did not tell you I was going to ask you about that, because I didn't want. I wanted you to just give me raw and unfiltered. I want to talk about. First of all, tell me, what was the process like in writing that? Tell me, like, what was the experience? How was it? I know the book was recently launched, and tell me about like what you wrote in your chapter. Like, talk to me about it. Talk to me about what you did.
Very smart and tricky there, Kimron. So the book is called Local Voices, and we came about the name as a group of academics. It's called Local Voices, and we are really speaking about archaeology, heritage, and so on. And the reason why we chose the book Local Voices, while we live in a global world, we are local communities because we are all connected, right? You don't have to go, let's say I don't need to go to Europe to interact with my colleagues in archaeology or in the Caribbean or anywhere in North America. I mean, we can jump on a Zoom, you and I not even in the same space, but here we are communicating with each other. So we came up with the name Local Voices, but it's really thinking about connecting our work, our network in a local space from an academic perspective. in the field of archaeology. So I wrote a chapter, and it's called Challenging the Prevailing Discourse about the Indigenous Heritage in Grenada, of course. All my work is always focused on our country. And the reason for that is it's part of when I was doing my master's in archaeology, I did work on heritage and education, and I focused again on Grenada from an educational standpoint. And there are a number of themes that was coming out. So I felt that I needed, after doing the thesis, I felt that I needed to do some more and make the language, I guess, more simple. And at the same time, there are a number of events or activities that was happening from an archaeological and environmental perspective. And these are the things that we go to conferences to discuss. And I felt that there was a gap from a Grenadian perspective, because we're not really writing about it in the way that I suppose I'm seeing it from an archaeological perspective. I'm seeing it from a heritage perspective. I'm seeing it from an educational perspective. So I felt that I needed to start to really write about it and delve deeper into the topic. But when we started to do that work, of course, COVID came. So this has been in the making for about 4 years now. We've been working on it. It's peer reviewed, so it has been going back and forth. The authors have been contacting you, the editors have been contacting you. They might be looking, you might mention something, you missed a reference, so you have to go back and I mean, this happened so long, you forget that you sent it to the publisher, and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm working on that, because you're doing multiple other things, and then it's like, I don't remember what I was thinking and that, so you have to go back to that space. So I wouldn't call it challenging. For me, it was very engaging, and it's a process that you learn from a research standpoint. I mean, I did research. I'm a researcher, but you were doing it in a different light. There was different types of research. You have to clarify what you're saying. You have to define your terminologies clearly from your perspective, because you're writing from a particular perspective. Of course, a lot of persons, like you say, will disagree with you, but there is a context in which I'm working with, and I'm living through these processes, because I was in Grenada at the time when I was writing. So I was going out in the field and observing. And I think one of the greatest thing about doing research is when you're observing, people really don't know, and you see them in their raw, unfiltered state, and then you could really get the truth of what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing. So for me, it was a very exciting process. Sometimes you have a million things to do, and the authors say, okay, well, you need to do this. You need to put a footnote here. You need to further clarify this. And I was like, I can't do this. Not because I have X, Y, and Z to do, but you have to do it because you have deadlines, again, to meet, because the authors and the co-editors also have their deadlines to meet. So, and one of the things that we wanted to do is really make the book free. So you can go online and download it. And if you really want to read about it from different countries, different perspectives, there are similar themes, there are similar threats that not just Caribbean countries, but the bigger countries are also experiencing. So that, and then we know that we have some work to do in bridging the gap. And again, it further compounded the title of the book, which is Local Voices, because we're all speaking in this particular tone, one voice, but multiple perspectives coming through. So that's how the book chapter came. I mean, there are several other book chapters coming since you are on that. So it has been a lot of work happening behind the scenes, really. But it has been an exciting journey, a process. I mean, I've always liked writing. I've always liked tackling the difficult, I suppose, topics. And I want to push forward. When some persons might be reading the chapter, they may feel uncomfortable or attacked. But it's just a particular perspective or context that I'm working with. It's not that you hate the person or you're against the person if they're referencing there. Because if you read and you follow what's happening in Grenada, you would know exactly what has been happening. And again, space and time. No, since that chapter came out or was sent to the publishers, I must say that a lot has changed. So that's a good thing. A lot of change in the positive direction of the things that would have been recommended even before the chapter came out. So that's a good thing. So we could see it from one stage, but then we're going to a next stage. And then, of course, we need more, I suppose, researchers, not just archaeologists, but other researchers to write about it in the ways that they see it, so we can really get a deeper and broader perspective of I suppose, heritage, identity, or culture. Because it is what it really is. It's really about culture, who we are as a people in a global space. Yeah. I hope I would have answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's really good. And like I said, a lot has changed since that was written. Sort of a lot of change for the positive, so that's good. So I imagine that in the follow up or the next book or so, we're gonna see some updated
Thank you, thank you, Kimron.
updated info based on the current context of what's happening. And yeah, I look forward to seeing when that happen again. So first of all, let me say publicly, congratulations to you on that. That is dope. So yeah, so congrats on that. And you know what? One of the things I admire about you is that you're always striving to do more. Like, you don't ever settle and say, well, okay, I've done this. Okay, I've done my degree. Okay, I've done work in this space. Okay, I've written a book. But there is always that desire to build and to do more. And I feel like as human beings, that's how we need to be, in the sense that we always need to be looking for ways to develop ourselves, to push ourselves to do more, to not settle. You rightly stated, some of the things that you wrote about, some of the context would have changed, and you would have lived through some of those changed contexts. So now you might have a different perspective on something, something that maybe you thought before, you realize, okay, you have new information, new knowledge, so maybe that change your perspective a little bit. So now you have a different perspective on things, and you keep growing as a human being, growing as an individual. And I think that is very important for us, for all of us, as we, in terms of whatever we do, whatever walks of life that we're in, whatever discipline that we're involved in, we always got to keep going, always got to keep trying to improve, even if it's by 1% each day or 1% each week, but always trying to improve and do better and just not settle.
So one of my favorite psychologists is that of Carol Dweck, and she's the one that proposed the fixed and growth mindset. So you have to, with a fixed mindset, then you're static. You're not moving anywhere, right? With a growth mindset, you want to see things happen, or you want to see yourself at different places, different junctures in your life. You want to move up that I'm not going to call it social ladder, but for your own personal growth, because you're not doing it for anything or anyone. You're doing it for your own personal development. So having that growth mindset is something that I have adapted from a very young age, and it's like you do your best every day. You do better than you're doing the day before or a year ago. You always put yourself in that position where you can propel yourself or take off. So it's really that having that I guess that growth mindset. So it's just making small choices every day to get to that bigger goal or that bigger thing that you want to. And for me, it's really just doing what I love. You know that I'm an avid reader. I read a lot, so I have multiple perspectives. And some of what you read, you agree with it. Some of it you can see your life experiences playing through it. So you don't think to yourself, okay, if it happened 50, 60, 70 years ago, what is it that I am doing now that can change that status quo? What it is that I can do to help somebody to contribute to somebody's development in a way that it can benefit them or their generation, right? Because it's not really enough for you, because we're not going to be here in 50 years. It's making that space better for we're not going to be here in 100 years from now. So it's about thinking about the long-term goals. What do you really want to see for the world? Not having those experiences or putting people through the challenges that, because you would have experienced something negative. It's not really giving those people the next generation those bad experiences, but it's just making it a bit better, just leaving the world a bit better than you would have. And so for me, it's about reading, writing, documenting. Like I said, we all have different perspectives, and we all are experiencing those things in different ways. So we write about it from the standpoint that we see it. And as you rightfully said, if new information comes to you, you change your mindset. And that's what the growth mindset is. If I could put it simple, that's what it is for me, actually.
It's important. And I think I want to really like that last point, because I could believe in something today. I could believe that whatever, in whatever, I can have a perspective, a belief in something today. And if tomorrow I get new information, new knowledge, I am allowed to change my mind on what I believe based on the new information and the new knowledge that I acquired. That doesn't mean that I'm a fake or a fraud, because, yesterday I said this, but today I'm saying something different. It's just that yesterday I did not have the knowledge and information that I have today. So I am allowed to change my mind, and that is how growth happens in individual. That is why we need to have an open mind and have a growth mindset to know that, hey, your perspective could be wrong.
And if we are to really dig deeper within ourselves, then one ought to have that growth mindset. Because how would you know what your truest and fullest potential are if you don't do introspection, if you don't think about the next stage, the next direction that you want to go, even if it's just for personal development that you want to go. So I'm moving through these books, and I keep going back to Grant's Think Again, because it was one of the books I read a few years ago that really gave me a different perspective, a different outlook on life. And we would have spent some time discussing his Think Again book. But it's really important, it's crucial that we have that critical and analytical mind that can really push us to our truest and fullest potential, really.
Absolutely. And, we're not going to give them all in the first episode. But this is not the first episode of the second season, but it's the first episode of us co-hosting the podcast together. We're not going to give them everything. I love what we are just discussing, and I want to continue that discussion in the next episode. So, know that part 2 of this conversation will continue in our next episode, people. So, right now, we're going to wrap up this episode of Dropping Bars right here, Bars Nation. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Dropping Bars. And Bars Nation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast wherever you're consuming it on. And, we are going to keep bringing this conversation with you, to you, every week. So thank you for tuning in, and we shall see you next week on the next episode. Peace.